these Palantir drones are being produced in Ukraine, outside of Ukraine,
No,
and
no,
what is
no.
the communication between these drones and the space? The internet of Elon Musk.
Oh, they absolutely run off of. They're all Starlink. In fact, a lot of the drones that have been going into Russia are Starlink. So whatever Musk says, his Starlink terminals are using these drones to kill civilians. Absolutely, he's making money off this war. He can play the saint all he wants, but the reality is at the end of the day, he's making money off of this war. His Starlink terminals are mounted on drones that fly in that most of the time kill civilians if they can make it to civilians. And by the way, you got to remember one other thing. These drones aren't small, the ones heading into deep into Russia. These are 4 meter long drones. These are small airplanes. They're small Cessnas. And when they get shot down, they're packed with fuel and explosives. The thing is, the further they go, the smaller the explosive charge they carry because they need a lot more fuel to get there on this little two-piston engine. And if you never heard these drones, I mean, I had a drone taken out 500 meters away from me, and this is what it sounds like. So, sorry for anybody's hearing. That loud, right? And you're standing there. What the hell is it? You know, it's that friggin' loud, and it's still half a kilometer away from you when it goes kaboom. I'll go like, oh, okay, I got taken out. And it's like, holy crap, they're so friggin' loud. Just very cheap two-piston engine, like a very revved up lawnmower, very revved up lawnmower. But these drones, when they fall, I mean, when they're full of gasoline, petrol, when they fall, they cause fires. So a lot of the damage that actually happens is drones being shot down and falling. So now the drone and Gelendzhik, the way that the apologists for the West so love to go on there. Oh, it was shot down. That's why it hit civilians. No, it wasn't. It was not shot down. There's a Panzer system at the mouth of that bay. It does not shoot inward. It only shoots outward. And if you look at that drone and a video of that drone, there's no tracers going up anywhere on it. There's no smoke coming from it. There's no pieces of it falling off. It was directed directly at civilians on the beach. So there's that. It was premeditated murder. Whether it was an American sitting behind the control or behind or programming or Ukrainian, does not matter. Is Western murder of Russian civilians. That is what it was. Directly. And the blame should go exactly where it goes. It should go into Washington, London, and Ukraine, and Brussels. They're the murderers, and their peons are the murderers that are controlling these drones or programming these drones.
Let me bring up the map again, because there is other thing that yesterday, here is the Kharkov region. It was reported in the Kharkov that the area, they say Ivanovka, it says the Russian armed forces have established control over Ivanovka. Let me bring up here Ivanovka. Ivanovka is here. Here.
That was Ivanovka is the region of Kharkiv?
Yeah.
Or is it a town called
Kharkov region? In the
Kharkov
region.
No, okay. But that's not even. This is Ivanovka as part of the Kharkiv city. Ivanovka is in the when they say Kharkiv region, it's Kharkiv province.
Yeah.
So Ivanovka, yeah, Russian forces aren't that close. I wish they were, but they're still actually quite a bit of ways from Kharkiv. Ivanovka should be to the northeast. I don't know if it'll show up. Some of these towns, are they're not even towns. They're not even hamlets.
Is it going to be some sort of, regions that are going to connect many, many roads, many, paths?
Well, Russia right now is taking and clearing northeastern Kharkiv Oblast. While at the same time it's advancing on Sumy. And while Sumy is to the northwest, Sumy is a major logistics hub. Because if you look at Sumy, it's got major, not just railroads, it's got major interstates. going from Chernigov and Kiev into Sumy, from Sumy to Kursk, which is the road that they used when they did the Kursk province invasion, and directly feeding Kharkiv. So Sumy, yeah, you can see those roads right there, those major roads. So that's that's N12. That goes to Kharkiv. So if you take Sumy, even though it's about
I mean H12. This one, H12.
no, that's N. That's an N.
M.
N. That's a Cyrillic N. It looks like a Latin H. That's N12. And that's not a P, that's an R in Cyrillic. So yeah, that's the R61, I think. Is that R61? Yeah. So yeah, that road N12, it runs into Kharkiv. So cutting that road would also take out a lot of the logistics that's going to Kharkiv to support Kharkiv. Plus, Kharkiv is closed from the north. Kharkiv is closed from the east. And the only thing that's left for logistics to Kharkiv is the south, and that runs across the Severna Donetsk River and a couple other river areas. So lots of bridges. Once you start severing those bridges, it gets a lot easier to really isolate Kharkiv for the move. But first, Sumy, just to cut the logistics. If you zoom out a bit more, that you'll probably be able to see the roads, the big road networks. And you see those roads, the ones that are numbered. They're running from Kiev. They're running from Chernigov. All these provinces, just people to understand, the province is named after its capital city. So if it says region, it's province is what they're called is. And it's just the Sumy region. It should be Sumy province for a better translation, but for whatever reason, people don't translate correctly. Just like, by the way, Orthodox temples, it's a bad translation just under my skin. Because chram in Russian is temple, but it's a chram, a Christian chram. In English, it's temple is for pagans and the Jewish temple, mosque for Muslims, and church for Christians. But whoever translated didn't really know the language too well, so they just called everything a temple, and that's stuck. So you get these bad translations once in a while that really screw things up. But region is one of those. It's not a region. Region is region. Well, it's region in Russian, and the region could be 4, 5, 6 provinces. I mean, the Uralsky region, the Ural region, is 5 different provinces. Mm-hmm. But when they translate it into English, for some reason, they used a bad word, and it's just stuck. And you get these words that just they confuse people. It's province. You can call it state if you want to, but really province is the proper translation for oblast. Sorry for going off, but that's what a major confusing issue for a lot of people.
Yeah. Then, Stas, your opinion on the blockade on Odessa? It seems that after all, Russia is, I think the vision or the strategy is to, as you've mentioned, with the pressure they're putting on Ukraine, it's going to be not only on the export, import, but strategically, they're somehow, without going inside Odessa, they're controlling Odessa without being that much, putting troops on the ground, and that's not going to happen. It seems that.
Well, no, it'll happen. But to put troops on the ground, you're going to know well before that, because Russia has to cross over and take back Kherson city. And then once it's established in Kherson city, it's going to have to take Mykolaiv, because you can't go around Mykolaiv. You have to take Mykolaiv if you're going to go to Odessa. And then you go to Odessa, because that's the way the road networks run. And that's just no way around it. If you're going to try to bring in Marines, just to land Marines, it's going to be near impossible to keep supplies. Yep, this is Kherson. It's right now in Ukrainian control. So once Russia takes Kherson, if you look at the next one over,
this is Mykolaiv.
The Ukrainians who call it Mykolaiv. They screw up everybody's names. That's their claim to fame. It's Mykolaiv.
This is Mykolaiv.
Yeah, and then Odessa. When you take Mykolaiv, there's Odessa. So you've got to follow the main interstates. I mean, you can. The problem is there's a limited number of bridges if you go around the coastline, and you
Mhm.
cannot pass up Mykolaiv, because if you pass up Mykolaiv and don't take it, it becomes a thorn in your side from which the Ukrainians can launch attacks on your flanks. So, like it or not, Mykolaiv has to be taken, and then you can proceed to Odessa. Thing is, though, when you take Mykolaiv, you also open up all of central Ukraine.
Mhm.
So even if you can feint toward Odessa and go into a different direction if you wanted to, that's going to make a lot of problems for the Ukrainians.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just how. I mean, like I said, you'll know when Kherson is taken. That's going to be a major clue. I think before Kherson is going to be taken, obviously they're going to go the three main targets here is of course going to be the conglomerate agglomeration of Druzhinka, um, Kramatorsk, and Slavinsk, which are already being worked over. And from that you can burst straight over toward eastern Dnipropetrovsk city, Sumy in the north, and Orykhov in Zaporozhye, and then straight to Zaporozhye city. And then Kherson will be developed afterwards. Because once those areas are taken, or in the process of being taken, particularly once the Tri-City area is taken, the Ukrainians have no solidified front line. There's no fortifications. The difference is here with those three cities. Before the Ukrainians, they weren't just in length that they fortified in depth. So every time Russia had pushed them out of a fortified town, they just fell back to the next fortified town. Then it had been 5-6 kilometers that were, because these parallel road networks are running north-south, just fall back to the next one, or across a river to the next one. Well, the problem for them is this is it. This is the last line. And behind this last line are open fields. Those open fields are already under Russian artillery, aviation, and drone control. So going in and going out is difficult, still possible, but difficult, because you got to go over fields and go think. Comes a month and a half, month from now, when the rainy season starts, that could be middle of September, that could be end of September, those fields are off. You're not going anywhere. You can only go on hard-packed roads. So that makes targeting a lot easier. So anybody still trapped in those cities, they've got one or two choices: morgue or POW camp. There ain't no other choice. They ain't getting out. That's it. And there's no place to fall back. It's I think 50 kilometers to hoof it to the next toward Dnipropetrovsk. You're not going to make it across that. So it's just the way it is. So anybody sticks around long enough that the rain comes in, that's it. They're done. And I think the Ukrainians, it's got to be a hit on morale, because now they know there's no place to fall back onto. There's some field fortifications. They've dug trenches. They don't have, but they're open. And they're in the open. They're maybe anchored at some unprepared village. They've got no place to go.
Yeah.
It's their graveyard if they stick around, and it looks like they'll be sticking around for their graveyard.
A report yesterday was that the armed forces of Ukraine, they lost 1,375 servicemen in a single day. It was yesterday.
That's a
And
pretty light
what
day.
is? Yeah, they did.
That's a light. No, that's a light day.
Yeah.
They average around 2,000 per day dead, and figure about 3,000 wounded, of which probably half are invalids and aren't coming back to the front lines. That's 14,000 dead. In 1 month, just for people to comprehend, in 1 month, that's more dead than the U.S. suffered in Vietnam over what, 6 years? That's in 1 month.
Unbelievable.
That's a Vietnam every month for the Ukrainians. And that's not counting the injured, the POWs, the deserters. No, a lot of deserters didn't desert. They just died. And they're not being counted, because then they don't have to pay out. He's a deserter. We don't have to pay him his family compensation. Oh, yeah. Or they got chopped up in their organs. Again, to repeat, I've said this many times. People don't understand this. Human organs don't come from dead bodies. Human organs come from living bodies. The moment blood starts flowing and oxygen deprivation starts to the cells, you get necrolysis. The cells die. You need a live organ taken out of a live body. And Ukraine allows export of organs and taxes it, and made something like $4 billion on organs last year. Think about that. How many organs they're moving out of, and who's the prime candidate? Oh, the nice 25-year-old guy that's relatively healthy and had a leg wound. Come over here. Let us patch you up. I mean, I've seen videos that, there's things you cannot unsee. I've seen enough Battlefield Dead. But this isn't Battlefield Dead. This is a butcher shop that was overrun before they could destroy the evidence. They just, these black market organ donors, organ doctors, they should all be destroyed. No trial, just destroy them, because they'll never bring them to trial. These are satanic bastards. They ran, and the videos was just, and it wasn't just Ukrainian soldiers that had been chopped up for parts. Women, local men, children. It's a butcher mill. It's a human. It's a human carnal house. So this is, by the way, what the West promotes, and it's happened. It happened in multiple places. It happened in Yugoslavia. It was on a smaller scale, but it happened. It happened in Chechnya. This isn't anything new, and in Ukraine, it's been happening since 2014. So the amount of civilians that have been killed by Ukraine and by its bastard backers, God only knows. God only knows. I mean, there are mass graves being popped up on a regular basis in the territories that have been retaken. Civilians, arms, hands tied behind their back, shot in the back of the head, throats cut. So this is going to be something that's going to be getting cleaned up and cleared up for the next 5-10 years, finding all of these people, putting them to rest. This is.
Yesterday, Medvedev said that if the people in Ukraine do not find new rational leaders, the country is headed for inevitable destructions. And he says that Zelensky is actively moving toward the end of his career as the disposable asset of the West in the fight against Russia. Do you see how do you see in Ukraine, Stas, and what's going on in Ukraine? Zelensky recently has fired the commanders in Ukraine. Syrsky was fired, and you see what is going on in Ukraine. Nobody's talking about what's going on in Ukraine.
Well, Zelensky's trying to stay alive. He likes breathing and snorting coke and doing whatever other things he does. Look, somewhere in his drug-addled brain, there's got to be the thought forming that he's not walking out of this alive. I mean, understanding who he is and what he knows, nobody's going to let him live. That's by the way, his security is British or Anglos. They were British. I don't know who his security right now is, but definitely not Ukrainians. Anyways, this guy's not coming out of this alive. So whether he realized it or not, I don't know. But he is getting rid of people that outshine him. Trying to keep I mean, they're all corrupt. Don't get me wrong. The people outshine him are still stealing left and right. They're just maybe more competent than he is. Zelensky has this tendency. He upgrades like 1-star generals to 4-star generals, and then expects them to be his lapdogs. He did it with Zelensky. He did it with Syrsky, and he's did it with this latest guy. What's his name? Drapri or something like that. And this last guy, he shined as a lieutenant colonel when he took Mariupol from civilian protesters when all this started, by shooting a lot of them, running them over with BMPs, shooting them, and so on. So he got to shine as a murderer of civilians, and that's what he is. Then Zelensky was his nickname was General 200, General 200. 200 is the category for KIA, so General KIA, because he would do whatever he's told and throw troops in. Zelensky actually tried to be a general. and do things, which why he ran afoul. But the other point is, even though you have a Zmei Garenich in Ukraine, Zmei Garenich is in Eastern Slavic folklore is a three-headed dragon,
Mm.
because a one-headed dragon isn't enough for us Slavs.
Mm.
We go hard. We need three heads. That's okay. Got to bring a little humor into this. But the three-headed dragon in this case is the CIA, MI6, and Mossad. Mossad is neck deep in Ukraine. Has been since 2014. Let's not ignore that fact. Israel's playing a little tightrope thing not to piss Russia off too much, but they piss off Russia off quite a bit, and Mossad is everywhere over there. So at this point, but it may be a three-headed dragon, but it bites each other. The three heads occasionally bite each other. So Zelensky, why he's the ambassador to the UK, and who's his backers? MI6. Zelensky is the CIA's pet. So at this point, the MI6 wants to have their top dog in. CIA is insisting on keeping their top dog in, but that's a lot of the infighting. And again, Zelensky is trying to get rid of anybody that can outshine him or may replace him. And he's paranoid. He's absolutely paranoid. He's paranoid partially because he's a druggie and partially because he knows he's going to die. He's when his best chance is to start World War III.
Exactly.
His best chance of survival is to make sure a lot of American kids come back in little pieces and body bags. A lot of British kids come back in little pieces and body bags. A lot of German kids come back in little pieces and body bags. That's his best chance to survive and continue earning. Let that sink into anybody that's listening. Just by the way, as Netanyahu, his best chance to survive is to make sure a lot of American kids and anybody else comes back in body bags from fighting Iran. Same thing, same animals.
Yeah. It was reported by ABC News yesterday that the Pentagon prematurely removed the commander of the U.S. Fifth Army Corps responsible for coordination, military assistance to Ukraine, and managing troops in Eastern NATO. And we know that during the war, they were using a lot of these mercenaries. What is the situation with the mercenaries, and how about the officials? And he's talking about, the American forces officially being there. I'm not talking about the mercenaries, the officials, who are paid by the government, who are officially part of the army that are active in Ukraine. What is the situation with that?
Well, what was the guy's name? Agara. Here's a general who got fired because he was getting drunk too much. He took the vodka a little too well in Ukraine. This guy, I don't know why he got fired. I can't say, but all possibilities, he said the truth. Trump doesn't like the truth. He doesn't want to hear anything from the truth. It's like he doesn't want to hear the truth that he can't win against Iran. He doesn't want to hear that. In fact, apparently he tried to fire Vance, but you can't fire a vice president. Lucky for Trump, he never read the Constitution of the United States. Otherwise, he may have been or unlucky for the American people. So yeah, this I don't know why this guy got fired, but the position of mercenaries. Well, first of all, to understand the position of the Ukrainian military, all you got to take is what they said that their aim is for 40 to 60% of the assault troops to be mercenaries, to be foreigners. They didn't say mercenaries, to be foreigners. That's the I'm going to get dead real quick job, because they do like human wave attacks and suicide attacks for PR reasons. So if you're banking on 60%, or let's even just say 40% of those troops, foreigners, coming in and going, oh yeah, I really want to die for Ukraine. Yeah, right. The majority of mercenaries don't want to die. They want to fight, particularly if they can fight women and children. That's and elderly people. That's a good fight. You can get some money on that and have your kicks, and not risk your life too much. Mercenaries aren't there to die; they're there to earn. But they are recruiting primarily and in large numbers Colombians, Venezuelans, and Brazilians.
Mm.
They're not being told they're going to go be in an assault unit, of course. They get to find that out when they arrive. They're told they're going to be instructors or guards in the rear, whatever. Whatever it takes them to fly to Ukraine, sign a contract, and then that's it. You're now our animal. And we'll do with you as we see fit. So the mercenaries, they're still there. They've changed. There's a lot fewer Europeans. A lot of those mercs, they've all run away or they've died. No, not everybody, of course. There's some hardcore ones. I mean, just to give you an example, the Georgian Legion, which I think is now the International Legion, has maybe about 100 Georgians fighting in it right now. The Russian Georgian Legion has about 400. Just as an example. Yeah. So, that just to understand the difference. I discussed this with Patel Balad that we do the Russian. I'll have the video up and running on YouTube later on tonight. It's on my time. So AI Translate, you can hear it from him. And he's one of the founders of the Georgian Dream Party. Good friend of mine. We discussed the Georgian Legions. In fact, it's something that's one of those things that's flown under radar. The Russian Georgian Legion, but it's there and it's growing. So that's another problem for Washington.
Yeah. Let me just bring your YouTube channel before wrapping up, Stas.
It's the video isn't up yet. I just uploaded. I haven't done all the twisting and turning of the nods for it, but it'll be up.
But you're using your YouTube channel.
Yeah, it'll be on the YouTube channel.
Let me just bring it up for our audience to follow you on your channel, because I know that you're doing amazing on your channel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go there and please subscribe to Stas and his YouTube channel. You're going to learn a lot about Russia and his, guests. And we have common guests, we have mutual guests, but he has his own understanding, his own way of interviewing, which is so amazing in my opinion. Thank you.
By the way, I've started a new series of videos. I've only got one up right now. I'm working on putting that together, a second one. Russian history, Russian history, not the BS not the BS that the West is now twisting and turning, which is just it's the West has always had its slant on Russian history. And you expect that everybody has their slant, but now it's just gone into fabrication mode. I mean, from whole cloth. These Ukrainian medieval nations, like where? They never existed, but they've created these new Ukrainian kingdoms, medieval kingdoms. Really? Wow. So what did the Hungarians and the Poles that were in those areas think of that one? And all this other crap. I mean, even channels like Gods and Generals, which was a good channel, but they bought the U.S. aid packet and they started making this crap. They get called out for it. They keep pumping it out. It's like, I guess the money talks. And they produce this BS. So the other thing is I'm trying to go deeper into it instead of just glossing over, because history is my little pet peeve. I started to really love history in 11th grade. It was American history. The teacher we had, she taught it like the gospel,
this is the first
the bad and the ugly.
Of a new program.
So she she gave you the whole thing, not just dates. The history gets taught as dates and names, and that's boring, and people don't understand how it all puts together. History's trends. That's what it is. It's all trends, and it's usually a circular trend.
This is the video that I saw you put on your channel.
March to yeah, that's my first one. I'm working on the second one, which is going to be Igor and Olga. Igor was I mentioned Igor. Igor was Rurik's son. Olga, who had met a tragic death due to his greed, and Olga was his wife, who became, by the way, the first Orthodox saint of the Russian lands, because she eventually converted to Orthodoxy. She was a raging pagan in her time. very bloodthirsty raging pagan. It became quite the opposite afterwards. By the way, and then her grandson, Saint Vladimir, the Red Sun, he was the same thing, murderous raging pagan, and then became Christian and became quite a different man. And then we started getting invaded from the west under his reign, these pan-European invasions. So they didn't like that. He started setting up a government, a real government, and all that. So we got to invade Russia. So it's been 1,000 years of invasions.
I think that's the way that you started the history. I think it's so important. Many people don't know because it's all shaped, as you mentioned, by the mainstream media, and that's so superficial. The whole understanding is so superficial. It's so then demonizing this and that, and it's just.
Have you ever seen the series Vikings?
No.
Okay, so there was a series called Vikings, and they took basically 400 years of history and consolidated it down to about 70, or actually less than that. But part of it is they go to Russia at the last or next to last season. And I was watching it on and off, but when I got to the Russian part is when I killed it. I killed watching it. And Russians who are Slavic warriors, and actually when this would have been set, it still would have been just Slavic warriors. They hadn't really mixed in with the Rus who were Danish. Danish Norse. I won't call them Vikings. Russian Slavs are also Vikings. People don't know that. The Vandals, the Sorbs, and the Rus were Viking against Vikings a career. Raid or trade, depends how big the other guy is. The Swedes were raiding yearly into Russia, into Russian lands. Russia was yearly raiding into the Swedish lands. It was back and forth for like 200 years. back and forth, and burning Swedish villages just like they were burning Russian villages. I mean, it was pretty vicious. But so they come in there and they show these Russian warriors. First of all, the scenario, everything's in black, right? It's going to be gloomy. It's going to be autocratically sadistic, black. Everybody's wearing black. There's no other friggin' color except black. And the sky is always gray, and it's snow. Because Russia has only one season, snow. We have light snow, heavy snow, really bad snow, but we have snow. There's no greenery in Russia. It's all snow. I don't know what the hell we eat, but apparently we just eat snow. We don't grow anything. It's all snow. And the Russian warriors, historically, they didn't look that much different than most of the other peoples around them, and the Norse and all because they all wore basically same chainmail halberds, halberds, or chainmail shirts. Helmets varied. That's usually how you could tell people apart by the helmet. No, these guys are dressed all like Mongols. They're all Mongol. They're just like these iconic Mongol warriors with big Mongol hats, And it's just, like, that's just that's all.
This is the way that you tell the story.
and it's all every stereotype that Hollywood could put into it. That you got it right there. So yeah, and it's also Orthodoxy too while we're at it. It's unfortunate, and this was before February 22. So
yeah.
I think it was in 20.
Thank you, Stas, for being with us today. Great pleasure as always.